we have this story here, and this is this is something that I kind of expected to happen, because in case the guys aren't aware, there's a big government shutdown happening in the United States of America. A lot of this is over healthcare. This is one of like the big pillars, but there are like some other things as well. And so this report here is from NBC News. It says some senators predict the government shutdown could end this week. Now, I've been telling people IRL, I haven't been saying this in the Discord server, and I haven't been saying this on stream because I haven't had the opportunity to say so, but I've been saying for a while that once the elections end, people are going to figure it out and the government's going to be funded. This is all a tool to get people and mobilize people to vote for Democrats in these elections. And actually, we're seeing some of this as well. I've been seeing some people going out saying, oh, you don't like the government shutdown, then vote for Democrats. Like, it's just so blatantly obvious that, it's in my mind at least, that this is an effort just to win some votes. You've got the SNAP funding that was theoretically in jeopardy until the judge said, oh, you've got to fund it. Now you have Democrats running around saying, oh, Trump actually isn't going to fund SNAP. To sort of instill panic in people. You've got people sort of like drumming this up and saying, hey, look, Republicans don't like you. They're really, really mean. And, this is, a very obvious political trick. Now, very obvious political tricks don't mean they don't work, right? So I would not be shocked if Democrats win a lot of their elections. I know there were a lot of Democrats facing safe elections, tonight, but I wouldn't be shocked if we do see a slight swing where, oh, this election was supposed to be close, but, the Democrat ended up pulling further away. Wouldn't be shocked if we see a little bump there because of the fear mongering over the government shutdown that the Democrats have created, because, you've got the clean CR, which the Democrats could, I think they could agree to it right now. And then everyone's SNAP funding and all the other stuff would be very, very safe. It's already safe, but it would be even safer. The Democrats could say, hey, we actually want to fund SNAP, but no, they don't. So, well, at least not till the election happens. But let's read this, because I really am wondering if what the senators are saying is going to be different than sort of what I've been surmising, which is this is a big political trick. It's a gamble. Democrats want some votes. But let's see what the article says. Some senators predict the government shutdown could end this week. Bipartisan talks between rank-and-file Democrats and Republicans have been picking up, while House Speaker Mike Johnson endorsed the plan to fund the government into January. Let's see here. This is by Scott Wong, Lily Boudreau. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Frank Thorpe V, and Ryan Nobles. As the 35-day government shutdown ties for the longest in American history on Tuesday, senators predicted that the impasse could end this week. I'm pretty confident, says Senator Mark Wayne Millen, a Republican from Oklahoma. After weeks without any movement, bipartisan talks among rank-and-file members have been picking up, leading to the first public sign of optimism that the shutdown could end. Mullins said that some Democrats had privately indicated last week that they were willing to vote for the short-term Republican spending bill that would reopen the government through November 21st. But, Mullins said, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, Democrat of New York, had instructed them to wait until after Tuesday's election so they wouldn't depress turnout from the liberal base that has been urging the party to hold the line. Hold on, wait. That's absolutely insane. That it's so, like, to me, it's just like a common sense thing where it's like, oh, if we do this, then we'll get more votes. For it to be so explicit, to have been instructed by Chuck Schumer, that really surprises me.
Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker's petty request to pause ICE operations for Halloween. Here with reaction to all of it, Oklahoma Senator Mark Wayne Mullen. Senator Mullen, you've got a very clever take on what the Democrats are doing with this shutdown. I've seen and read you say previously that they're waiting till at least Tuesday's elections in New York City, in Virginia, in New Jersey, and elsewhere to even...
I did not know that he's been saying this, to be honest. I've been saying this since 3 weeks ago, I think, because this is kind of weird. Because if you guys aren't familiar with government shutdowns, usually what happens is there's bickering and fighting over certain contingencies in a spending plan. And so the Republicans will be like, oh, we want this. Democrats will be like, no, we want that. Then they'll go like, blah, 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 blah. And then they'll come up with new agreements. The Republicans will be like, oh, we want this. Democrats will be like, no, we want that. Still disagree. Blah, 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 blah. Then you've got something else that they've come up with. Finally, they agree. And then it's all over. But that's not what we've been seeing at all. What we've literally been seeing is Republicans saying, fund the government for a little bit so that all of the employees are getting paid while we figure out what we're going to do with the budget. Democrats are saying, no, just give us everything that we want now. Republicans are like, well, maybe we could give you a little bit of the things that you want, but there's still other things we want to negotiate on. Democrats are like, no, give us everything that we want now. There's been such immobility, especially on the Democrat side, but also partially on the Republican side, over what this fight has been over, that to me, it's just like very clearly they want the government to be shut down. Like in the past, of course, I think usually it's Republicans. They want a government shut down to sort of like induce shock and awe, or to get Democrats to agree with them, because there's nothing that Democrats like better than funding the government. So they're like, oh, well, we're not going to let you do your favorite thing unless you agree with what we say. And so usually the whole goal of it is like, let me get you to agree with me. That involves negotiation, that involves compromise, and that involves speaking with members on the other side of the aisle. What we've been seeing, especially at the early stages of this shutdown, was literally just like two people backing into a corner like this. I don't like what you want to do. And to me, it's like, oh, what's this? This is not normal, because they're not even trying to negotiate with each other. So it just seemed kind of obvious that they didn't just want the government shutdown to happen like Republicans usually do. They wanted it to last. I think this gives a really good reason why they would want a government shutdown to last.
Think about reopening this government. So it's one thing to say they're leveraging power over President Trump and the Republicans. That's not true according to the polls. It's quite another to accuse them of playing politics. Explain.
Well, Kellyanne, first of all, love the two first names. We have something in common there. When you start talking about what the Democrats are doing, this was never about policy. This is about Republican policy versus the Democrats' politics. First of all, they shut it down because the Democrats' base demanded them to do that. They've been chanting that all year long, shut it down, shut it down. Once they shut it down, they knew they were in a mess because they entered a fight that they had no end for victory. They didn't know what victory looked like. They shut it down just because of anger, because of because of their hatred towards President Trump. But then they said, well, we're going to open it back up after No King's Day or No King's Rally because, hey, listen, the base will be really upset if we do that before the rally, so let's open it up then. After they went to the rally, they realized that their base was only more dug in. So now what the Democrats are literally telling us this, they plan on open it back up probably Wednesday or Thursday after the election, after they elect a communist in New York to be the mayor, after the New Jersey's gubernatorial race, after Virginia's governor's race. They're going to come out. They're going to look for an exit ramp because they know they're losing. Shoot, even CNN polls are showing that this isn't good for them.
Interesting.
The American people have already been exposed to, Congresswoman Clark by saying that this is a leverage point for them.
Yeah, that was crazy. They were literally saying, oh, we're going to get rid of, I think that some Democrat was asked, like, oh, well, what about the SNAP funding? The people on SNAP are going to lose, access to their funding that they use to buy their groceries. And the Democrat was like, well, I mean, hey, it's the leverage that we have. We hurt these people, and, it's a pain point. The more people that we hurt. I know I'm going a little bit far, but but she was literally like, oh, it's a point of leverage, insinuating that she didn't care that constituents across the country are going to go hungry because she didn't get what she wanted in her spending plan, which was stunning. It may be true, right? It may be obviously true to people who are paying attention to politics, but for it to be just so blatant and transparent kind of surprised me. And I think it surprised a lot of people.
Chuck Schumer say every day's getting better for them. You had Senator Coons from Delaware goes out and says it's
Senator, Senator what? Okay, no, I'm playing.
Uncomfortable, but it's a leverage point. And even Bernie Sanders goes out and says they can't open it back up because they lose leverage. But they also know they need an exit ramp. So after the election, Kellyanne, they're going to come out, and at that point, they're going to go out there and rail that they're going to take the high road. They're going to try spinning it on President Trump and the Republicans. And after they get done talking their way out of, I don't know, themselves, they're going to eventually open it up probably Thursday, I'd say midday.
And Senator, what does that look like?
That's a very specific prediction. I'm very curious. I think it's going to take 2 days for all the details to be ironed out, in my opinion. I'm saying Friday. I'm not a betting man, but I like making predictions. So let's say, in the chat, one's in the chat if you think Mark Millen's correct. Zero's in the chat if I'm correct. You think it's going to be Thursday, the government's open, or Friday. I think it's going to be one of those 2 days.
For the Democrats who really decided to die on the hill of health care, extending Obamacare for illegals, they'll say, that's not the law. You can't do that. We've all discussed this 6 ways to Sunday. We know that that's exactly what they mean. What will it look like for them? Will they seen as either negotiating with Republicans or capitulating and abandoning their base on this?
Well, one thing that they're going to go out and say they're going to be guaranteed a vote on trying to fix this for the health care. But once again, this was never about a policy. This is just something that they wanted to say. If they were serious about it, they wouldn't be wanting $1.5 trillion to open the government up at that time for 4 weeks.
It also would be. Also, they would have just figured out the details and provided a better proposal to Republicans early on. There were rumors that there was going to be a shutdown, I think weeks before the shutdown even started, and I was like, man, they are either they're like me and they're just turning in their homework late, or two, which is most likely, that they are literally doing the government shutdown on purpose. I would say that when I was seeing it weeks in advance. So yeah, I think it's very obvious that this is not about negotiation at all.
Wanting $1.5 trillion to open the government up at that time for 4 weeks. Now it's just a matter of days. What they're going to try to say is that millions of people are going to die because they've lost Medicare. But keep in mind, Kellyanne, this fight is about discretionary spending, not mandatory spending. What they're talking about was the one big beautiful bill that cut waste, fraud, and abuse in the tune of $1.5 trillion, and that's under mandatory spending. That doesn't have anything to do with what we're dealing with right now. Right now is discretionary spending, and so what their argument isn't even pertinent to what we're dealing with today. So it was, as I keep going in circles, it has nothing to do with policy. It was strictly politics for them because their base demanded them to shut it down. And you have Leader you have Leader Schumer, who is scared of AOC, who is afraid that she's going to challenge him in 2028, and so he had to do this. So after the Tuesday election, he's going to let the handcuffs off. He's going to let Dick Durbin actually stand up and vote because he already signaled that he wants to. And you're going to have probably 5 to 10 other Democrats are going to vote to open the government too. But I bet you Schumer still votes no.
Interesting. That would make sense. Actually, that would make sense. So, that's sort of Senator Mullen's position there. It says here, after weeks without any movement, I'm not seeing enough movement. Bipartisan talks among rank and file members have been picking up, leading to the first public signs of optimism that the shutdown could soon end. Mullen said that some Democrats had privately indicated last week that they were willing to vote for the short-term Republican spending bill that would reopen the government through November 21st. But, Mullen said, Senator Leader Chuck Schumer, Democrat of New York, had instructed them to wait until after Tuesday's elections so they wouldn't depress turnout from the liberal base that has been urging the party to hold the line. Schumer's party had no immediate comment. Schumer's office had no immediate comment. I think there's a possibility we could do it tomorrow night, but more than likely Thursday, said Mullen, who regularly speaks with President Trump, Democrats, and his former House colleagues. Centrist Republican Senator Mike Rounds of South Dakota, who has taken part in some of the bipartisan talks on how to get the government reopened, agreed, repeatedly saying he's optimistic the shutdown could end this week. Another thing I should add is that I've been hearing rumors of different, proposals and things that people are pushing behind the scenes, which signals to me people are negotiating again. With people negotiating again, that means that we're closer to the government shutdown ending. So that's also one of the reasons why I'm thinking, this government shutdown is going to end around the time that the elections do. It says here, Senator Eric Schmidt, Republican of Missouri, also pointed to Tuesday's elections in Virginia, New Jersey, New York, and California as a key factor that could shake loose a solution to the impasse. After the elections come and go, I think the Democrats will reveal what this was about all the time, which was a political play. They want to keep their base upset, try to blame Republicans, even though they voted over 13 times now to continue to shut down the government, Schmidt told reporters. So my guess is that later this week, when I'm funding the government, as Republicans had proposed 35 days ago. Democrats, however, have dismissed their GOP argument that reopening government will all hinge on the election, with Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut mocking it as a cynical galaxy brain thinking. Okay, okay, Democrats, if this is not about the election, then you need to wait until at least like Thanksgiving. Okay, not Thanksgiving, that's a little ridiculous, but wait an extra week or two, or fund the government today. I know it's probably too late. Y'all are probably already flying back home in your private jets or whatever. But I seriously think that, for all this bluster that the Democrats are going to say, they're still going to end up funding the government within a few days. Like, let's be real. Because again, what do Democrats like more than funding the government as much as they can, as quickly as they can? Adrenochrome? No, I'm joking. But for real though, Democrats love funding the government. They can't resist it. So, unless they think that resisting it will get them more votes. So we'll see. I really do agree with Mullen's take here. Republicans need just 5 more Democrats in the Senate to break with their leadership and vote for a continuing resolution or CR to reopen the government. On September 26th, the GOP-controlled House had passed a clean CR to fund the government through November 21st, but Senate Democrats opposed it, insisting that any bill to fund the government must also address health insurance subsidies that will expire at the end of this year, raising premiums for millions. Tuesday marked the 14th time that Democrats voted to block the House bill in the Senate. But with November 21st and the Thanksgiving holiday fast approaching, there is now a need for Congress to pass a longer CR, possibly into the new year, to give bipartisan negotiators a longer runway to craft spending bills for the fiscal year that began on October 1st. It's absolutely ridiculous that they need this much time to fund the government. The homework is more than a month late. Why is it taking them so long to turn it in? Like, hold on. Even if it's all just political games, right? They've had 35 days to figure out what exactly they want to do to fund the government. Even if they wanted to keep the government closed until today, by tomorrow, I'm quite sure they should know what they want. And if they don't, that's preposterous. Why is it take government so? Now maybe this is how my profs looked at me, but still, like, it should not take the government this long to fund to figure out how they want to spend your dollars. That's crazy to me. That's insane. And so listed here is the key date in the shutdown. November 5th, the government will set the record for the longest government shutdown with day 36. There's not much left in the article here. It says Senate Appropriations Committee Chairman Susan Collins, whose panel is responsible for writing spending bills, said Monday night she is cautiously hopeful they will be resolved by the end of this week. There have been a lot of conversations on both sides of the aisle, across the aisle and across the chambers, the main Republican said, and I do believe that we are finally making progress. Collins cited a level of specificity in the talks that had not been there in previous negotiations, but it's too soon to declare that this nightmare of a shutdown is over. The Appropriations Chair supports a new CR to keep the government funded through December 19th, which she said would pressure Congress to reach a spending deal right before the holidays. It's a well-worn tactic for forcing a funding deal, but it's drawn opposition from many in the GOP in recent years. On Tuesday morning, House Speaker Mike Johnson, Republican of Louisiana, said he opposed setting a deadline in December, warning that it could entice lawmakers to pass a massive omnibus spending package rather than individual funding bills that are more carefully crafted to address spending. He said he would back a CR that funds the government into January, a timeline endorsed by Florida Senator Rick Scott and other Republicans. See, here are some of that like back and forth the negotiation I was talking about. It's like Democrats want to fund it until December, Republicans want to fund it until January. Like, see. And this is like the specificity that Susan Collins was speaking of as well, where it's like, oh, now they're actually saying what they want. Interesting. They weren't doing that before. I'm not a fan of extending it into December because, let's be frank, a lot of people around here have PTSD about Christmas omnibus spending bills. Johnson told reporters, we don't want to do that. It gets too close and we don't want to have that risk. We're not doing that, but too many people have concern. I think putting it into January makes sense, but there are no bipartisan negotiations happening at the leadership level with Schumer and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, Democrat from New York, about a longer-term CR. Across the aisle, some rank-and-file Democrats are hopeful for a breakthrough as the shutdown approaches the 5-week mark on Wednesday, but they're not sharing the GOP's confidence that it will all be over by week's end. Well, of course not. No, they've got to continue to pretend it's not about the election. Democrats have been demanding that Trump and other GOP leaders come to the table to negotiate extending the expiring Affordable Care Act subsidies. So far, Republicans have refused and say Democrats need to vote to reopen the government first before any substantive health care talks can take place. There seems to be some indication of a thaw, but I see no immediate solution on the horizon, said Senator Richard Blumenthal, Democrat from Connecticut. Talks are a good thing, but so far I see no willingness on the part of Republicans to really assure the American people that health care insurance will be guaranteed. Speaking on the Senate floor Tuesday, Schumer said Democrats are fighting to lower health care costs at a time when 24 million Americans on health and Obamacare are facing sticker shock due to uncertainty about the expiring subsidies. Never have American families faced a situation where their health care costs are set to double in the blink of an eye. Schumer said the biggest beneficiaries of these enhanced premium tax credits are red states, millions of people in Texas, Florida. Republicans seemed ready to tell their own constituents back home, screw you, I would rather cut taxes for billionaires. That's what's going on. Schumer said Democrats are going to keep pushing to get these tax credits extended. So really interesting. I am curious to see whose prediction will end up being correct. Would love to hear in the live chat as well as in the comments below who you think is correct. For all I know, the government could be funded by the time this video goes up. Would not shock me at all. But we'll see.